our next guest. I'm super excited to introduce her. She has been so generous with her time, with her talents, with her knowledge, with Sampson Agents already. So I'm super excited to bring her to the stage today to talk about embracing market changes and succeeding in today's environment with a strong mindset for success. With over $1 billion in personal volume, just herself, over a 20-year span. Please welcome to the stage, Miss Carolyn Young.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. So if we're talking about mindset today, we got to have a lot of good energy because it's super important. But before we get started, I actually have a few questions. So who here in the room today is feeling anxious, unsure, and I would say most likely confused about what's going to happen to our real estate market come July 1? So I had the privilege of spending last week on Thursday with a very small group. Everyone's talking about coaching. I'm in coaching with Tom Ferry. And he's now referring to July 1 as D-Day, and I think it's a great term for it. So, but, you know, probably more important is who here today would like to have strategies for a positive growth mindset with plans and action and skill to make when D-Day hits, make it an option for you to make 2024 your best year ever. That's what we're able to do right now with this, and we're going to talk a lot about it. But I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I've been in the business now for 32 years, so I guess at this point I qualify as a veteran agent. I hate to say it. But, you know, I have been through a lot of changes. And I'll have to tell you, I've also been through a lot of growth. I've had a lot of growth over my career. I've been very blessed with it. But I have to tell you, one does not go without the other as long as you have a good mindset. And as Zig Ziglar says, that the market, well, not the market, it is changes are inevitable, but growth is optional. So we can pick. And to give you a little bit that I think that I'm so into having a growth mindset is my career has been 32 years long. About 6 years ago, I pretty much had a plateau for about 15 years. And not in a bad place. You know, I was doing 40, 50 transactions a year. I built myself up. But the last, 6 years, I jumped in with Tom Ferry coaching, but I surrounded myself. I wasn't one of them when I went in the room, but listening to everybody with big mindsets, plans, I'm like, this is for me. Like the day that I went in the first conference and walked in that room, my life changed. And I think, even my coach is like, why is this like, you're just like taking off? What is it? I said, you know what? The saying is that day I was ready. When the student is ready, the teacher will come. So I'm asking you guys today, are y'all ready? Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about mindset and adapting. So basically, when there is change, it's an advantage of growth, but again, it all goes with the mindset of how you go into it. And I think it was the slide before that. Yeah. So basically, what I wanted to talk about, if you just look, we have so many leaders in our country. You have athletes, you have, Olympians. And if you really look, and by the way, I got to say, we have a great leader in our industry, and thank you so much, Donnie Sampson, for putting this on and doing all you do for us. But, you can look at what a lot of leaders do say. There will be obstacles, there will be doubters, there will be mistakes. But with hard work and no limits, Michael Phelps. Growth and comfort do not coexist. You want to stay comfortable, want to stay the same, you're not going to grow. Change is inevitable, growth is optional. Change is a law of life. Those who look in the past and the present are certain to miss the future. So this god-awful picture of me was really it's about growth. Okay, so I had been in the industry for about 10 years at this point. And when I started in, I had my own challenges, right? But I've grown now into a team. But honestly, the team launched in the last 6 years. And that's just because I'm thankful that I found people to help me change my mind. But had I not have made the change, and I'm going to give you some strategies to change your mindset, that I never would have known what I had in me to do. So really, I've been, I guess, blessed with a lot of uncomfortable situations in my life because it made me grow. And of course, I've been through the industry. But one thing I think that I can share today, because there's a lot of noise going around about right now what's going on with NAR. And out of curiosity, how many here have been in the real estate industry less than 10 years? Less than 10. Because really, over that, you're into the 2007 market. But, the change, if you put it in historical perspective, I think that you'll realize what we're going through is a change and it's different. But we're going to look back in a couple of years and say it's the new way of doing business. You can go to the next. So this is kind of the chart of what I've had for growth over my 32-year career. But, I started out in 1992 as actually I was a single mom with 2 babies under 2 years old, a 9-year-old, and working at a grocery store, kind of like Jason's story. He just didn't have all the kids. and I was trying to figure out, how do I get into real estate with this? I mean, it wasn't easy when you're up with babies all night and all that. But anyway, so that was a challenge in itself. But I got into it. I was so determined to do it. And I stayed on a plateau. You can see in 2007, that was like my lucky year. It's like everybody. The market went up like crazy. And actually, I had a pretty soft landing. I came right back to where I started. A lot of people went way down. I mean, that was a challenging year, and we'll talk about it. But you can see by changing my mindset, getting a coach and surrounding myself with people that were very forward thinkers, not running around saying, oh my God, what's going to happen? That's when you can see how fast that the growth I've had over the last 6.5 years. It's actually a 1,600% growth. So, next one. So what I want to share with you a little bit is, what are some of the historical changes in the market? So Black Monday was back in 1987. That's when there was a 20% drop in the market. I wasn't in the market then. But when I got in 1992, that would help.
Right and left. Just to go forward, the other go back.
So where was I at before? Oh, yes, thank you. You guys left one thing out.
I wasn't sure whether I should interrupt or not, but I was like, at least you want.
No, this is much easier. So basically, though, for me, I got in 1992, and we were still feeling the effect of it. A lot of people didn't have equity. There were people short selling. There was so much inventory on the market. The economy was bad. But, for me, that market built a little toughness in me because I didn't get in the market when everybody was writing contracts left and right, and it was so easy to sell houses. I had to learn the hard way, especially when I was a single mom with a few kids. So that was a tough market. And it's ironic that now that we're dealing, with this buyer agency deal with NAR, but in 1996, and I bet a lot of people in the room don't even know what the sub-agency field means in MRIS. Yeah. Well, back then we were all sub-agents. Like, you're running around with the buyer, having pizza and helping them find houses. Come to find out, they're like, oh, I thought you represent me. No, I'm a sub-agent of the seller. And so when we switched to that, it was a big deal because sellers were like, well, I'm not paying a buyer. I'm paying the fee and they're representing the buyer. But that's when transparency came out. We said no, because the buyers need to be represented. Like that way it's more transparent. And for me, I was happy back then because I'm like, I would rather have someone more educated on the other side doing a transaction than someone who's not aware of what they're doing. So anyway, but we're kind of on the other end of that now. But this was the big one in 1999. And a lot of you are probably thinking, the internet, could you imagine doing business without the internet right now? Like, how much business has mine grown by doing internet leads and by, having lead sources online? But back in 1999, when that happened, I'm here to tell you it was probably more devastating than what we're going through now, because if you wanted the listing, if you wanted to know what's for sale, you needed to come get my black book, because I had the listings in it and I could email them. And if my client said, I got a listing on a house that's coming on the market, I already know another agent sent it to you, because you couldn't get listings without an agent giving them to you. So when they went online, everybody's like, oh my God, like this is horrible. Like the buyers can find the houses, they can go drive by, they have pictures, like we're going to be out, like they don't need us anymore. And now we see how that changed. Like if I look at that now, thinking back then how, scary it was, how has it changed my business? I mean, I leaned into it. I started buying online leads. Of course, we see the monsters in the business, Zillow, Realtor.com, who really took advantage of that. And, but that's how business is done now, so you have to lean into it. But that made me much better technology-wise, because back then I don't think I had a computer. And then if you look into going over the internet, what about 2007 when the market crashed? Like, let me tell you, that there's no way this is anything like that. That's when you were rolling so fast. I mean, people could buy a house with no money, no income. They would even say, you know what? I'm going to buy 10 more rental properties the same way. And everybody was just, high rolling like they're a big investor. And you woke up one morning and it dropped 30%. Every deal you had on the books with the builder, I don't care if they had $30,000 deposit, they walked away from it. People walking away from contracts. And even worse, the rental properties, everybody losing their job. Nobody able to pay rent. And then you've got, as a realtor, you have rental properties, people aren't paying rent, everybody's pulling all the contracts. But from that market, it taught me, what am I going to do about it? I can sit back and say the market's crashing and turn my license in like a lot of people did. But I'm like, no, I mean, as long as you have a willing, positive mindset on how to shift, like you can make anything happen, And I said, okay, so I'm going to need to get really good negotiating with banks and doing short sales. I had short sales from clients of mine that had first, second, and third trusts, that all three had to have a short sale. I mean, there was a lot of crazy stuff going on, but I got really good at short sales. And then also, too, you had to really grab onto the investors, because what a better time to get in the market, with a 30% drop. So I went back to the business as usual, but not, quite the big of the year I had in 2007. So, and then if you go past the market crash, I'm waiting for you to do it. We all know the 2020 COVID market. Even when that happened, I think everybody's like, oh my God, is the market going to stop? What's going to happen? Like we were, doing deals, and you don't know if the courthouse is going to close. You're like, well, if the courthouse ain't open, we can't even transfer the deed. If the, title company won't open because they're afraid to come in, my contract can't go through. So there was a lot of problems a lot of problems during that market. We got really good at knowing how to have our buckets of sanitizer, our booties, our masks. I mean, virtual tours, from that, I learned how to be really good at virtual tours. Every one of my team is great at virtual tours, and we're doing a lot of them now for people and still selling real estate from virtual tours. So it's always something that you have to shift from. And then we go, of course, we had the low interest rates, the COVID interest rates. Those were great, but I'll be honest, at 3%, what are you writing? 1 out of every 20 contracts, 1 out of every 35 you're hoping to get. So we were just taking buyers out, and some of them would have to write 10 offers to get a contract approved. So what did that do for you? How did that market shift help you? We become really good at writing offers. Like my team came up with a whole strategy. I think me and Donnie did something the other day for Samson about that. But I got really good at how to make your offer stand out and being a very, very good detailed contract writer and analyzing the market for comps so that you can help coach your buyers on what price should they go to be the highest price in the market rather than letting them tell you what price they wanted to go in at. So we had to become very skilled at getting our contracts done. And of course, we're all still dealing with low inventory, right? Inventory in, since 2021, I mean, we're still low right now. We're not, multiple offers aren't as hard as it was with the 3% interest rates, but we still have it. We're all dealing with it. So it's something, again, you got to be a good, contract writer, and you have to be able to guide your buyers and add value of why they want to work with you as well. So then let's get to the big gorilla in the room, the NAR lawsuit. So for me, the skill that's going to come out of this, that, and we can all talk about, and I'm not getting into any of the legal stuff. I just think, there's too much being said about it. We cannot focus on how we're going to do business right now. We cannot focus on that. Right now, you need to be focusing on what is your unique selling proposition? Why is a buyer going to want you as a buyer agent? I'm pretty sure, you'll hear people saying, the bottom of the bucket's falling out. I see people post just the craziest things. And I think we had Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac come out with some big, Amber Alert news that, guess what? If a buyer agent gets a commission under traditional terms, it's not going to be part of the buyer's closing costs. Who would even think that? It's never been our whole career. So, 6% interest rates are now negotiable. I'm like, that really? That's true? Didn't we all know that? But I like that they think it's all 6% all the time now. So, but it's just they're giving you an edge actually in the news. But all I'm saying is there's just a lot of noise. And we don't know. I don't know. I'm a little anxious. How are we going to operate? But I'm not really as worried about that as I'm working on my skill set of how to be a better agent after July 1. How do I stand out? And that's what our team is working on. And that's why I'm saying that you should avoid the noise. Venus Williams says, I don't focus on what I'm up against. I focus on my goals and ignore the rest. And I suggest that not that you ignore the NAR lawsuit, you have to know the law, and I suggest you read it, talk to your broker, and understand the practices, but don't get involved in all of the noise, because I'm pretty sure we're going to develop a new way to do business. So one thing that I do that has really been crucial for me is my morning routine. Have any of you guys read the book, Hal Elrod? Miracle Morning. He's amazing. It's one of the first books I read when I got in coaching. And I don't know, for me, my morning routine is really super important. What I get up and do and how you take care of yourself gives you the energy and the mindset. And if you read Hal Elrod, he will help you develop. It could be just like a 5-minute routine. Like you don't need to get up and run an Ironman to feel good. Like you can just do a couple yoga stretches. But the bottom line is you got to get up and have a routine. And I'll share with you a little bit about the routine that I do. Would you like that? And I'll tell you, I do. So that one of the most important things in the beginning is the affirmations. So I'm big on affirmations, podcast. I like to put a lot of good stuff in the morning. I feel like in the morning, if you can develop your mindset by getting good stuff in, taking time to yourself, and being selfish. I get up early. I get up at 4:35 in the morning. And that way, up until about 7:30, 8 o'clock, it's all my time. Nobody can bother me. And then I feel like I'm ready to bring on the day and the problems. But Hal Elrod has a set of affirmations. Has anyone here ever listened to them? It's one of the most powerful. I've used them over the last 6 years. Would you like me to read you a few of the paragraphs out of it? Because I think they're amazing. If anybody wants it, I think he quit doing this one page of them, which is a shame because I think they're the best he had. But I do have them if anybody wants them. So, and I tell you, when I do these, when I read them, I don't get up and just read them. I get up and yell them. Like if you're staying at my house overnight and you're a guest, you'll think I'm crazy in the morning. So, but it goes, first, I'm just as worthy, deserving, and capable of achieving extraordinary levels of success in all of my goals as any person on earth. The only thing that separates me from those at the top is my level of commitment. So from this moment on, I'm 100% committed to becoming the person I need to be through daily personal development and living with daily discipline to easily attract, create, and sustain the levels of success I truly want and I deserve in my life. I know that to do this, I must be willing to stay committed to my goals and doing what's right as opposed to what's easy at a level I have never been committed to before. I will no longer settle for less than the levels of success and fulfillment that I'm truly capable of and deserve. In fact, I have a responsibility to live my life to the fullest, to achieve my goals in order to set an example for those around me. To create the life I want, I can't wait for some day or some year because my time is now. I realize I can sustain no success unless it's founded on truth and integrity. Therefore, I'll always keep the well-being of others in mind and engage in no activity that's selfish or does not benefit all whom it affects. In doing so, I will inspire others to help me because of my willingness to help them. I will cause others to believe in me because I will believe in them. I will repeat these aloud once a day with full faith and will gradually influence my thoughts and actions so I can become the self-reliant, successful person I know I can be. Today and every day, I choose to make this the best day of my life. But I always in the morning, I read that and then I have my own. Like, what are some of my goals? And when you do affirmations, affirmations cannot be a state of wanting. And I remember like when I very first started into this thing like 6 years ago, my like you don't say, I want to be the top producer of the county. Like you want to say, I am the top producer. And I would feel ridiculous doing that. But you look back at your affirmations like from a few years ago, because I have them on sheets, and it's like, that's all I was thinking that long ago. So it really does develop, and you end up believing. I think Oprah Winfrey is huge on affirmations, and I don't know if, how I can make that screen just the affirmations because I can't read it. But yeah, you don't become what you want, you become what you believe. Oprah Winfrey. So you really have to believe in yourself. And some people ask me, how did you shift your mindset so quickly and have so much growth? And it's because you have to believe it. And the big way of believing it for me was being around people that have success. And you're like, they really don't have anything like superpowers. It's just that they're committed and they have hard work. And they're dedicated to the process. So it's the same with this NAR noise going around. just don't get wrapped up in it. Just figure out how you're going to be a better version of yourself. That's really how to come out of this and come out on top. And my morning routine, I think giving gratitude every day is really important because you can always feel like you need more and have more. And you can always, look at people all over the world. There's a lot to be thankful for. So I'm always thankful for what I have because gratitude is the best way to fill your heart, especially any days that you're having a rough day. I'm big on exercise and eating healthy. Meditation is really hard for me because my mind is crazy, so I can get about 10 seconds. But I do try to stop and visualize how I want my day to go, how I want this week to go, I try to visualize what I'm doing. But I think on exercise and eating healthy, and it's all also in the Miracle Morning book, that you can spend, 5 minutes doing your routine. I go to the gym about an hour and 20 minutes a day. I love to work out. So, but for me, I have some crazy goal for myself that I'm just determined that when I'm 85, I'm going to be in the best shape of my life. And I think it's really possible. I think it's possible. So, so you got to pick your goals, see what you're trying to do. But honestly, even if it's just, I have girls on my team, they're like, I hate the gym. Go for a walk for 10 minutes. Like just move, do something. The worst thing you can do is roll out of bed, get your cup of coffee and start work. It's not good. And, eating clean is really important. They say your health is your wealth, but your health is your life, So I don't know. I'm big into what I eat, what goes in my body for nutrition. So I think those are how Elrod talks about all of this. So everybody, again, you have to do you. So books. It's always getting good information in. When I'm working out, I usually listen to podcasts, Founders Podcast, Tom Ferry. There's so much good information in. Really, a lot of times when I get done with the morning routine, I'm just like, I'm ready. It's like, let's go. So I feel good. But, everybody, again, you can find your own books that work for you. Miracle Morning is a great one. That's really good. Honestly, the book by Brad Jacobs, has anyone read that? It is, actually, Tom Ferry recommended that one a couple weeks ago. And I will tell you, that is a really, you're not going to read the book and make a few $1 billion. But the guy that wrote that book, Brad Jacobs, his mindset is so transformative and so amazing, and how he goes into building these companies and what he does and his mindset. It's a really, really well-written book. And of course, You're a Badass. That's one of my favorite ones. I don't care any day that I wake up and I feel bad. I just try. If you read 10 to 15 pages of a book every day, you can get through, 12, 20 books a year, depending on what you're reading. So but that's a really good book too. David Goggins. I don't know if any of you have ever heard David Goggins. He's definitely on the edge, but I love it. So he actually, I had the benefit of meeting him one time, and he's a really cool guy, actually. So that was a good one. I think one of the most important things is skill set. That is more important than anything. So the secret of change is to focus all your energy on not fighting the old, but building on the new. So that's Socrates, and that is what we need to be doing now, that's for sure. I love this by David Goggins. He's always over the edge. You're in danger of living life so comfortable and soft that you will die ever realizing your true potential. And so I would say to get, for me, it's for the skill set right now, we know that we're coming up with changes. We don't know how we're going to get paid with the buyer. It's all confusing. I think the market will figure it out. But we've all should have been, over the last 3 years, developing your listing presentation. There's no listings out there. Even your past clients are like, well, I'm interviewing 10 agents because there's so many options out there now. There's 200 realtors for every house that comes on the market. So I would really recommend that if you haven't, that you have worked on your listing presentation, because not only now do you have to know how to go in, why you. If you don't have a lot of stats, use your company. That's what we use in Sampson. I mean, I have a lot of stats too, but I still use the fact that we have 32 offices and we have a lot of market share and agents. But whatever the stats are, you can always find stats in your office to give you a competitive edge. So you want to make sure that you're comfortable going into a listing and knowing why they need to hire you. And then now you're going to have to be going in and being very comfortable to have a commission conversation. Like I'm having that with, sellers now that are like, I heard about the NAR lawsuit. And I'm not saying here what anyone is going to do. You do you. You do what your broker's policies are. But you just got to have to be able to understand the lawsuit and understand how to have the commissions. But rather work on the rest and how it's all going to be built out. Just know that it will be built. But it is going to be a skill-based market. And it's not that hard. I'll have to tell you, I got, this goes to show you how our competition, how easy it is to build skill over a lot of people out there. I get a lot of referrals in the Tom Ferry Network, and someone reached out to me and said, hey, I referred someone to another agent in our market, and without getting any names, and said, I've done a lot of referrals with them. I have a long history, but so-and-so said I should call you because you're also in that market. And I'm like, yeah. And they said, well, what happened? What went wrong? Said, well, they're looking like up to around, 1.2 million, good buyer. And they called this agent and said, hey, we're looking. And she says, well, yeah, that's fine. I'm happy to help you, but I don't know. The real estate market's changed in our area as it is across the nation. And I'll take you out, but I'm going to send you an agreement. You got to understand, if the seller ain't paying me the commission, you are. And I thought, oh, wow, that's like a great value prop. So I said, yeah, no problem. So we got them on Zoom. And I always have a habit with our buyers. That's how I teach everybody on the team. Has anybody sat down with you and explained the buying process and what it looks like to buy in our market today? I want to make sure we're aware of all of your needs and we get everything together. Would you be able to jump on Zoom for a buyer consultation? At 12, at 2, at 3, we have Zoom links open for it. And we have a lot, because we're a Zillow partner, so we get a lot of buyers that we have to sit down and do consultations for. But if you sit down and explain them, this is how I work. This is how I'm going to advocate for you. I'm going to find off properties for you. I'm going to negotiate. This is how we won one of 30 contracts last weekend. I'm going to let them know why we're good and what we do. And by the way, here's the agreement I need to get signed so I can show you how we get paid. And I did the same thing kind of that she said, but I did it and they were like, oh my God, send it over. Where do we sign up? So if you present the value to them and why this isn't going to be a problem. But for people that are just trying to throw a buyer agency at someone and say, can you sign this? Like, I need to get paid. I mean, that's really not a good value proposition. So make sure you know your competitive edge and make sure that you know that you understand the lawsuit and you know how to comfortably have conversations with people without all of the noise. Like there's just a lot of noise out there. The other big thing I think that is really important, and it has been for me, and this is where I'm in coaching. I've had the same coach for about 6 years. I have another company that coaches us on systems, so I'm big into coaching. But if you don't, and you say, I'm not spending the money on coaching, of course, Sampson has coaches that are affordable, but find a partner. Find someone that can say, hey, but someone who really means it. You can't just set stuff and not stay committed to it. Setting goals the whole process of that is one, starting out with a great mindset. You cannot set goals if you don't have a mindset. And once you have a good mindset, you're ready to set some healthy goals. Goals should be a little bit scary. They should make you want to get out of bed and say, dang, if I miss today, I'm going to fall real behind. You want to be on your goals. And then you've got to have a tracker to track your goals. You have to know. I know that when I started out 6 years ago with it, I could tell you every day, I knew that I had to make 50 phone calls. And by the way, if you don't have prospecting time in this market set aside, I don't know what to say. Like, this is a contact sport. I don't care who you're calling. You're calling, expireds, for sale by owners, your past clients, your friends, your around listings that just sold. But you have to make contacts. And I was very, very dedicated to that. As a matter of fact, I was so dedicated and so worried about my goals that if I went on vacation, I would get up in the morning and say, I'm not available until like 12 o'clock as I'm getting my calls in, because I didn't want to lose my 5 days. So once you get good on the phones and you practice, you can every single day on the phone. I got to the point where if I spent 3 hours, I made an appointment every single hour. So, so I train with my team. They're all prospectors too. Everybody is. So you gotta have that. But you gotta set your goals. You gotta track them. You gotta know. I knew that, for me that year was the first year that I wanted to hit, 100 sales. And I think I ended up doing 120. Going from 40 sales, I doubled the first year in. So, but it was because I tracked I knew how many calls I had to make every day. I know how many appointments I had to go on, and I know how many listings I had to take and how many buyer contracts I had to sign. So just set up your goals, put them on a spreadsheet. There's a lot of things online you can get for plans, but honestly, even if you have to take, and say, I would say right now, like, I would be, if I was the agent and I'm not, selling, maybe a lot of real estate, maybe 10, 20, 30, 40, get a Post-it note and put up, this is how many listings I'm going to get. We got 60 days to D-Day. This is how many buyer agencies I'm going to sign. This is how many listings I'm going to get. And then once July hits, that quarter, how much business are you going to do? What is it going to look like? And if what you're saying and you're doing isn't working, switch what you're saying and doing. Talk to people that are having success at it. So it works. You got to have your goals. You got to be definitely ready for that. And I would have to say that I hope that some of the information I have given has helped. It's a lot when you're thinking of mindset shift, but the cool thing is you can make so much money in this market and there's so much opportunity, but if you don't go into it with a really good open growth mindset, you're going to be limited to what you can do. So I hope somehow today that I've helped you and that you can try to make 2024 your best year ever. And thank you.
Can you hear me now? There you go. All right. Thank you so much. Lots of great information. Don't forget, if you guys will put the text line up, if you have any questions for Carolyn, text them in and we'll read them off. Question here. What do you think is the most influential piece of advice that you've been given by a coach?
So the most influential piece of advice would probably be when I started in the Tom Ferry. Honestly, that day I went in the room, I was doing 40 or 50 transactions a year, which I built myself up to that. It wasn't bad. I stayed there for a long time. And I'm talking to agents that are doing, 100, 200, 500. And it all ended up being, my coach said, you know what? If they can do it, you can do it. And for me, it's like, I don't know, that for me was just the light bulb moment. I'm like, this, if they can do it, I can do it.
That's fantastic. Yep. What do you think the hardest thing has been for you to overcome when it comes to mindset?
The hardest thing to overcome, if you really want to know. So my son, I lost his dad when he was little, so I do a lot of stuff with him. But honestly, the hardest thing I have ever done in mindset is my son was, a gym wrestler all through high school. And he got into jiu-jitsu and doing MMA, and he had a fight team. And I went with him, and I said, I tell you what, if I was that age and that girls division was there, like, I would be all in that, because that looks like a lot of fun. Like, that.
All right,
really...
Can anybody else picture Carolyn as a wrestler? That would be awesome.
So I ended up tell him, and he said, that's great because next year you're coming. So anyway, I went into training that year, and it was jiu-jitsu, where they're trying to like break your neck and ankles and stuff. And that year I got so many injuries. I broke ankles, ribs, my nose. Like I just kept getting hurt. And I went out to Naga Worlds, and all the girls I'm fighting are like 25 years old. So I tell you what.
Now, how long ago was this?
I was 57.
Oh my, wow.
And so I'm out there with my cornrows.
I want to be Carolyn when I grow up.
I'm out there with my cornrows, scared to death. I'm like, I just was hoping the building would fall. And I never had to really push myself with my mind that hard. But I ended up going out, and I ended up winning all 5 fights. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay. Well, we now know if we have to get in a fight, we want her on our side. Who do you think was the coach that influenced you the most in your career?
Tom Ferry.
Tom Ferry?
Yeah.
Great question. Why would you say that?
He just has, honestly, I've gone to so many of his events. I've done so many of his events. And even last week, I was so busy. And I'm like, but it was only 20 of us that went to spend the day. And I thought, I just hope we don't go there and talk about the NAR lawsuit because I'm like done with that. Like, just give me something good, And you can ask Hans. I didn't want to go. I was like, I don't even know if we should go. Because I'm like, what else can I do? Like, we've put so much in place. And then I just left there. I'm like, oh my God, that's an amazing idea. And I just came back with like 5 more pages of notes. But he's so just always optimistic. And I tell you, you talk about somebody that can take a change in the market like he is right now and building people's mindsets on how that you can make this a competitive edge for you. Actually, it's just, there's a lot of opportunity with the change, a lot.
I love that because it goes back to everything that we've talked today about mindset and putting yourself in a positive frame, right? Turning all of the things that you're scared of into opportunities to help you grow and be successful. What system or app do you use to track your daily tasks or activities?
So that's a good one.
I've heard the story. That's why I went ahead and asked it.
Oh my gosh. So we actually, it's been, actually, I think we just all settled in from switching to Samson. I was 25 years Remax and came to Samson last October, which it's been amazing. I love it here, and I thank everybody. But it really has.
We love having you guys.
It really is like a true family. I love it. But really, that was a big change after being 25 years at one company. I've also been for the past 7 years in Sierra Interactive. And I mean, we have built, like my sales manager goes to all the meetings and like we're like all into it. And we just realized that a lot of stuff that we need is in Follow-Up Boss, that it's much more flexible on the back end. And I'm telling you, my team loves it. We love it, but it's been 7 weeks of a lot of work because I had a huge database to move over. But
it's
change
really hard.
Oh, but
change
it's awesome. Like you can leave an appointment and it asks you, did you list it? Do you need to set a follow-up appointment? You can just press 1, 2, 3, like everything's updated. It's awesome. I really like it. Yeah.
All right, we're going to round out Carolyn's session with one piece of advice would you give? And this question is about new agents to become a top agent, but I would also say one piece of advice that also applies to agents that want to take this year by storm and kill it and make it their best year yet. How would you advise them, the one piece of advice to be a top agent?
I would say, honestly, don't overthink what you're doing. That's the worst thing people do is they get over-prepared and try to make sure they have everything right. Just go out there, start firing away, do your stuff, make it work, contact people. That's the big thing. Contact your people and put yourself out there. If you have rejection, oh well, then next time you'll say something different or do something better. But don't overthink it. Don't overthink it.
I love it. Well, Carolyn, thank you so much. Everybody, round of applause for all that great information. Thank you.